Welcome back, everyone. One of the biggest questions on everybody's mind lately is how to protect ourselves, our ID, our IP, and our copyrights from AI. Recently, a slew of AI-generated images and music has been going around the internet. And to be honest with you, it has been faking out a lot of people, making them believe that the Pope is wearing Balenciaga and Jay-Z is featured on new tracks.
Tell the young they can never become what they aspire to. Born in a cell with no one who can inspire.
So the question is, are we always going to be spoofed by AI, or do we have a solution? Well, today, I talked to Phillip Shoemaker, the executive director at Identity.com, about that solution. He brings over 20 years of tech experience to this problem, including experience of working for Apple and building the Apple App Store. And before we get into that conversation, feel free to reach out at bookings@todayinweb3.com. And if you like this conversation and this content, please subscribe, share, like. And if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, click those 5 stars and leave us a comment. Now here's my conversation with Phillip Shoemaker. Enjoy. Phillip Shoemaker, executive director of Identity.com. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so I saw Identity.com. We're talking about AI. We're talking about people's identity getting spoofed all the time. I know one thing that has been big in the news is either the Pope or Elon Musk and Balenciaga puffer jackets. We see that Trump got arrested in air quotes, and this is a spoof by AI. I heard Jay-Z rap on somebody's track the other day, and it wasn't Jay-Z, because AI can do his voice so damn well. Now, of course, it's hit and miss, but if you pick the right parts, you know how to edit it properly, you couldn't tell the difference. Your Identity.com, you're trying to figure out how to solve this issue. Sir, what do we do about this? Are we going to be lied to our whole life? And are we going to start World War III because we don't know who's saying what on Twitter?
Well, it's funny. We're already being lied to every day by various media sources, et cetera. And the whole thing, George Washington had wooden teeth and stuff like that. I mean, we grew up on these lies. And so, yeah, we need to solve the immediate lies now, right? The ones that are hidden. That Pope Balenciaga thing blew me away. I thought for sure it was real. I mean, my head immediately went to saying, what the heck is the Vatican spending this kind of money to outfit the Pope? But yeah, we need to solve these problems. And there are tools out there, right? Adobe's been working hard on this. We're working with them to try to solve this problem by embedding something called verifiable credentials directly in videos, directly in photographs, and ultimately audio as well.
Embed credentials. What does that even mean? And again, how do you use that cross different media? So if we're talking about pictures and vocal, and I would assume just signing things in the digital as well. How does that cross every media?
Yeah. So it's a great question, and this is interesting technology, and it just needs to get better. We're not quite there yet to solve all the problems, but imagine this, right? If we all had phones that embedded some sort of our identity into that video. So ultimately, when you get that file, that there's something in there that you can't pull out. And that would be maybe a verifiable credential, which is a signed credential by me that says I took this photo, right? That I took this. So you know exactly where the truth is, right? Where the source of truth is. And we ultimately put an attestation up on a chain somewhere, on a blockchain somewhere that says, yes, Phillip Shoemaker took this video on this date, this time. It's attested to. There's no PII in the blockchain, but there's content and a signature embedded in the video file that you would at least be able to have graphical or have a signed evidence that, yes, this was created by me and it hasn't been mucked around with since then. That's the kind of stuff that the Content Authenticity Initiative that Adobe put out, of which we're members of the Content Provenance Authority Initiative Association. We're all trying to solve this problem by embedding these credentials in it. And look, people will be able to take these videos and ultimately remove that information and then tweak it. But then you have something that has no signed proof anymore. And right. It's like, okay, I'm not necessarily going to trust this.
Okay, so I'm going down the rabbit hole. I'm just going to try to create some different scenarios, and you tell me how we will fix this scenario. All right. So the Pope was a good one. Elon Musk is a good one, right? Elon Musk or the Pope's not going to sign their credentials. It's Elon Musk and the Pope. They don't give two shits. Who's taking it is the paparazzi. They're taking the picture of the Pope in a Balenciaga puffer jacket. How are we going to know that it is actually the Pope in the picture and not AI-generated image if it's not being taken by anybody affiliated with the Pope?
Yeah. All these news organizations need to ultimately start embedding credentials in every photo, every video they do. It just needs to be part of it. Adobe's been reaching out to all the big camera manufacturers to embed these directly, add the technology directly into their product. But look, a lot of these things ultimately get chopped up and added to magazines, et cetera, and we'll not be able to verify those, right? You get a print magazine, you can't verify images, but that's all there.
What? A print what? A print what? I haven't
Yeah,
heard that
right.
before.
There used to be these things, but yeah, it's gonna get harder and harder and harder as we move forward. This is and people are going to be able to trick us, right? We need to solve this problem before the cat's out of the bag. But as I keep saying, right, the cat's already out of the bag, right? We see Trump get arrested, and he didn't get arrested, but those are great pictures, by the way.
Do you see that? Okay, so what is an immediate thing that we can do, right? Okay, you said that the technology has to evolve, has to get better, and then we have to make people use the tech. If this is a solution that will fix everything, you'd have to, like you said, get the proper IC to embed their credentials. The people who make music, the distributors, the publishers, so on and so forth, they have to embed their credentials. But in the meantime, we have a gaping hole of non-credentialed media coming out that if, like, for example, remember Twitter got hacked a couple of years ago, and every major politician's account got compromised. And we're talking about Obama, we're talking about Biden, we're talking about Obama could tweet some shit that could set the world in a different direction.
That's right.
And if it's believed for long enough, it might be hard to do, to put out that fire. What do we do in the meantime? Is there any solution?
Yeah, to me, I haven't seen the solution yet. We're at this. It's one of these things, right? We're in an AI arms race right now. Everybody's building the tech as fast as they can, but we're not thinking about the long-term issues that come about with it. And in the short term, we're going to be dealing with the pain in the short term until these long-term issues get nailed down. I don't see a way around this. The idea that an AI can mimic a voice or even mimic the writing style of someone like Obama is here. It's here and now. It can happen, and it's going to continue to happen and fool us for the next few years as this technology is getting pushed out. But look, this credential stuff is out there. We can use it right now. The problem is it's not embedded in my iPhone. It's not embedded in the Saga from Solana, right? Their phone. It's not embedded in any devices right now. That's what we need. We need these technology vendors to get with the program and start issuing these credentials as soon as possible.
Now, I see the big kind of white paper behind you right there. And so I almost know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Whose responsibility does it fall to get this credentialed, I guess, these credentials out, to say that this is the new standard? Is it Congress? Should Congress come in and say, hey, no, we need to, you're already rolling your eyes. I knew the answer with the Bitcoin white paper back there. I knew who you were, but I'm still asking the question. So is it Congress to come out and say, no, we need to do this. This is something we need to do. Please start embedding this. Everybody, this is something that, because we're going to have an incident. Or is it up to the markets? What do you say?
Yeah, it's a very valid question. I know I rolled my eyes because I started thinking about the government regulating stuff, and it makes me ill. All right, if you follow Eric Voorhees on Twitter, I have a similar a viewpoint of him. But look, I also run an identity company, and we know that there's certain transactions we do that need to be KYC'd. You need to ultimately know who that person is, because I'm a pragmatist as well, right? I'm an idealist. I believe wholeheartedly in this decentralization approach, but look, when money is changing hands and you want to make sure that the wrong people aren't doing bad stuff, you need to ultimately do something like identity. So for me, I don't want the government anywhere near this, regulating or forcing down our throat any sort of regulations in this space. But let's take a look at what's happened in crypto in the past year, of all these frauds and other, FTX, SBF, all these shenanigans happening, that if the government had more force or more insight into, they might have regulated something that would have required FTX to do things on the up and up. But look, we found that when the government regulates stuff, all hell goes. All hell breaks loose, and that's a problem. I think we need to solve this ourselves. I'm a big fan of self-regulation and solving these problems ourselves, and the industry really needs to. Apple and all these phone makers and all these camera makers need to help solve this problem before it gets even worse.
Identity is data. for the most part. Let's just call it data for the time being, right? And I think one of the biggest failures of Congress is the fact that all these companies are able to scoop my data, sell my data, make businesses out of my data. There's data brokers and so on and so forth. And nobody knew when they signed up for Facebook 20 years ago with their .edu account that when I wanted to talk to my friends or hook up with a girl or keep in touch with my parents, that this was going to be the evolution of Facebook. It's a data grabbing machine. And now everybody else, all these social medias are the same way. The biggest failures of Congress, in my opinion, that there wasn't a standardized way for us to control our data in the transparency of the sale, the exploitation, the ads, whatever of that said data. I think those a fail. And I was talking to somebody a while back, and they said that you should be able to have a way to log into the internet that is a permission, kind of like a private key that logs you into the internet, and you have permissions of what you are allowing people to access, to see, to sell, to buy, to trade, and so on and so forth. Again, I thought it was a failure of Congress. Why should this be up to the markets? Because we see what the markets do with your data already. Why not? Why isn't Congress going to be involved to say, hey, at least make a standard?
Yeah, I know it's a tough one, right? Because I'm a big believer in the internet and the freedom of expression, freedom of use. And freedom to be anonymous, right? To me, anonymity on the internet is one of the best things that we've had because people can be free to express their opinion. Now, it breaks down when people start doing bad things, right? When bad content gets out there, people start doing bad things, then it starts to break down. And when companies, the companies that you would think are doing, that are good guys, like the Facebooks or the Googles or the Apples, they're all mining our data. They're all getting access to it, and they're the holders of our identity now, right? I don't own my identity. Right. Equifax, Facebook, Apple, they all own my identity now. And this is something that over time we have to pull away. It was sad to me that it had to be Europe with GDPR to ultimately say, hey, you guys, all these tech companies stealing our data, this has to end. There has to be a way for us to delete our data over time, et cetera. The GDPR is what pushed it. And then the US government was ultimately like, hey, maybe we need to look into this. But again, we're running into this issue now. California does it. Texas does, all these different states are doing it. And it's making running a company like anything that deals with data is a nightmare because you have all these different standards throughout the states and throughout the countries that we have to adhere to. So this is where it breaks down. I think you're absolutely right. There needs to be a Congress, a U.S. national bill that deals with data privacy, right? That's one thing. But that's protecting us from that. But what's the issue with these deep fakes going out there? Is it's lies, right? It's more of an honesty issue, et cetera. And look, Twitter and the internet is full of this. There's so much dishonesty out there on these things, and it's evidenced by ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT is trained on a bunch of unsupervised data, all that data that we've grown up with on the internet, and you don't know what's true and what's a conspiracy theory, right? And so this is a problem. But should Congress, should the American government get involved in that? To an extent, I think the answer is yes. But for the most part, every time the government sticks their nose into some business, it goes to hell.
I would say because they're pretty much behind the eight ball and incompetent when it comes to a lot of this emerging tech. I mean, this is how it is. But at the same time, just to harp on, I'm more of a policy kind of junkie myself. But it's like, when you leave it up to the market. And it's great for innovation. It's great for companies and building and entrepreneurs and all these different things, capital generation and so on and so forth, GDP. But we also see that when it's left up to the different companies and the siloed companies and so on and so forth, we also have a disconnect. I mean, you look like an older gentleman that's been dealing with tech for the past couple of decades. I bet you have a drawer with all of the damn adapters and all the damn cords for every damn product that you bought, and you have to find the right adapter for the right camera, for the right phone, for the SD card in 40 different sizes. It's too much. Even with an Apple ecosystem, you have the Lightning connector. Now there's USB-C. Sometimes now they have the MagSafe on the MacBook Pros, and it's like, what the hell is going on? Even when you're charging cars now, we're talking about this whole EV revolution. You have the Tesla chargers, then you have the CCS chargers. You can't go to certain things because you don't have the right adapter. Right. So it's like there has to be some kind of. And again, We don't have to want to be logging in with your ID on Apple and say, no, but you don't have this ID for Google.
I hear you. To me, I'm a big. Look, capitalism is great in certain areas, and and they often cut a lot of corners in order to make money, right? In the cases of things like adapters, I love my MagSafe adapter on my MacBook. I think it's the coolest thing ever, and I've tripped over that thing so many times, and it hasn't ripped my computer out of off the desk and onto the floor. That's awesome. If we had to go to USB-C for all of that, that computer would be on the floor multiple times. And I love that. And so for me, let the market decide for so much of this stuff. But look, when it comes to things like my data privacy, my data ownership, it starts getting really personal at that point and dangerous. Right. So the adapter issue and those things, I'm okay with it, right? Let the market decide. Let it figure it out. And these companies, Apple didn't have to go to a MagSafe adapter. They did it, and they're spending more money on cost of goods when they could have just done a USB-C and made everybody happy. Look, Europe is forcing them, right?
They did do USB-C, and then they switched it back to MagSafe because MagSafe was so damn good. So you're right. Well, I'll give you that one because it was the market. Right. Everybody was complaining this was great. Why did you change? Why did you change? Okay, so do me a favor real quick. Tell me about ID with the mom and pop. Like we're talking about us, we're talking about, the paparazzi, we're talking about big name people and companies. But what about the individual? What about the mom and pop? What does this look like controlling your ID in these different instances that we spoke about in the future for the mom and pop?
Look, for me, I believe that there should be a one way to identify yourself online. You should have a bunch of decentralized identifiers or verifiable credentials that allow me to log into any website anywhere in the world. So, for example, in Europe, there's some pending laws and existing laws that say you have to be over 18 to access pornographic content. As somebody whose son encountered that early on in their life and it scarred him, I'm in support of it, right? I think that's great. But you don't want to do it in a way that gives away so much information. I mean, how many people do you know would go hit a pornographic website and give them their driver's license? Nobody I know would ever do that. And so you got to do it in a privacy preserving way. If we came up with a standard called a verifiable credential, which there are, and websites used those in order to help us access them and log in, and those verifiable credentials were in videos, they were in all the videos I create, they were in all the audio messages I create, etc. It could be a much safer world. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be KYC'd and known. These verifiable credentials you could have your pseudonyms in there. You could log in as a different person for certain websites, but certain websites, like if a tobacco or something like that, you ultimately need to prove you're of age. Then you use the one that represents the real you.
So basically, you're looking. It sounds a lot like a MetaMask with multiple wallets, but one wallet is actually you with your ID and everything that you already verified through maybe a ZK zero knowledge proof or something.
That's right.
Okay, understood. Yeah. And so you think that digital identity, that's how it would work for the mom and pop moving forward. You want to log in, you first give it all. It's zero knowledge. It doesn't live anywhere, and then you log in with your MetaMask for the most part.
That's right. And you can choose when you go to a new website, the website may say, hey, to come here, you need to verify your social security number. And you'll get it's self-sovereign identity. You'll get a push on your phone that says this website wants this information. You could say yes or hell no and get out of there, right? And at least what's being disclosed to every company that you hit. Because right now, when you log into places using your Facebook login or your Google login, you have no idea what information is being sent to that other party. And right. I think that's dangerous.
Okay, last question. We've been talking way too long, but the last question today is, I know you like decentralization. What network, how would it work? It wouldn't be siloed. It wouldn't be a Google or Amazon in some kind of AWS server or whatever. It wouldn't be part of the government. I know that much. So how would it be ran?
So how would this identity information be run? Something like that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm a big fan of, I need things to be secure. Right. That's first and foremost. So, I always look at things like the AWS Nitro Vault or something like that as a way to secure things. But look, that's a centralized service. And to me, that scares me because now you have one point of failure and one place that could basically deplatform me. So for me, decentralized, whether you're doing it through Filecoin or you're doing it through storage or one of those companies, Arweave, something like that, we need to be able to leverage these. And you need to do it in an intelligent way. You don't want to have one big database or bucket of information on one server or service that can easily break down or be hacked. I'm all about trying to find a way to make this decentralized and unhackable. We need to figure that out. But Filecoin is my best bet at this point. But again, GDPR compliance factors in here, and that's one of the big things for anything that's IPFS.
GDPR?
Yeah, the privacy laws that are out of Europe. Okay. That's the GDPR is the compliance, and so they have this idea that any website that accepts European customers, which is pretty much everyone, needs to have the ability to have the right to be forgotten. So you should be able to go to Facebook and say, delete my account, wipe everything out. And with IPFS, there's no guarantee that it's going to be wiped off some rando person's computer that's in his basement in his mom's house in Podunk, Iowa, right?
Gotcha. Excellent conversation. Phillip Shoemaker, thank you very much for talking about ID, the challenges that we're facing right now with the emergence of AI, and it's going to be an interesting ride, and I hope that we have a solution, and I hope that Identity.com is part of that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. The bull run is coming. It's coming quick, and you need to be up to date on everything that's happening in the Web3 space. So please follow us on Twitter and like, subscribe, share these videos so we can keep you up to date daily on Web3 news.